Let's talk about a popular trend, ready-to-drink cocktails. You've seen these in stores nearly everywhere, from the White Claw phase of 2019 to the booming innovation during the pandemic of spiked teas, hard kombuchas, and now canned margaritas, Moscow mules, and even gin and tonics. Globally, bartenders, operators, and owners are jumping on the RTD game and canning some of their most prized cocktails. Let's welcome back Bastien Ciocca, co-owner and co-founder of Hope and Sesame in Guangzhou, China. And joining him is Tom Macy, partner and beverage director of Clover Club in New York City. Tom co-owns 2 cocktail bars in Brooklyn, Leanda and Clover Club. In addition to his duties behind the bar, one of his deepest passions is teaching people to make better cocktails themselves, whether they're preparing them at home or as professional bartenders. He often fashions himself as a cocktail version of the fictional chef Gusteau from the Pixar film Ratatouille, one of his all-time favorite films. These owners will share innovative moves on optimizing your spirits and beverage programs to ensure this tactic is doing everything it can for your business and brand. Let's kick things off with Bastien and Tom on this session, Beverage Programs and RTD Cocktails.
All right, so thanks for that great introduction. And as you guys know, we continue to cover a lot of the top topics in the restaurant and bar industry. And one of them that is kind of percolating, especially in the bar business, as we've seen a tremendous amount of shift worldwide, is the ready-to-drink and to-go cocktail scene. And it's really becoming kind of a strategy, I think, for a lot of bar owners. So we decided to get 2 experts really from across the world to talk about that topic today. But before we get started, make sure if you guys want to drop in some chat, you can do so just by hitting the chat tab right there on your browser or on your mobile device and be able to talk back and forth with us. And we'll get going on this topic. So with me today, I've got Mr. Bastien Ciocca, who is the co-founder and co-owner of Hope and Sesame out of Guangzhou, China. And then also Tom Macy, partner and beverage director out of the Clover Club in Brooklyn, New York. Great to have you guys on the show today. Thanks a lot for stopping in.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
All right, so
hi everyone.
Let's just get right into it, Bastien and Tom. When you look at, and this is kind of an open question for each of you, when you looked at kind of the scenario that your bars were facing and ready to drink and to go cocktails, in some cases, at least here in the States, to go was still not necessarily legal in some of the states. So there was some challenges there, but I want to kind of get into it. We'll kind of lean to you, Bastien, first. What were some of the things that you started with in terms of getting ready to do ready-to-drink or to-go cocktail programs?
And for us, it was something completely new. We never really done like takeaway cocktail before everything happened. It was when we basically got shut down in like end of January. We didn't go through a lockdown like some other countries would have been a few months later. Us, it was more like we received notice that you cannot open the bar. That was during Chinese New Year. But then the delivery service was still active in the country. So you could basically order food through kind of like Uber Eats Chinese version.
Right.
So by then we were like, okay, if we cannot open, let's try to sell cocktail as to the guests, because in China the delivery is a very, very big thing. I order maybe like 3 to 4 times a week delivery from restaurants.
Wow.
So it was something to try because it's something is very down in the culture in here.
So the culture, you felt like, the culture was there. Were there any regulations that were holding you guys back, or were you guys pretty much open to be able to do to-go cocktails?
No, there's no, it's not like in the States where the alcohol is very controlled. Here is a little bit more like a layback, like more like a relaxed, I would say, attitude towards alcohol in general. So it's a gray area, but there was no restriction at all.
Yeah. All right. So Tom, New York is quite a bit of a different animal.
Yeah.
You guys have a lot of restrictions going on there in the state right now. Kind of talk to me about your journey through getting to go into your programs.
Yeah, I mean, we often said that it's been like, we've opened 5 restaurants since the pandemic hit, because there have been so many different stages, along the way,
right,
and different models that we would sometimes evolve within this shift. We would have a whole system set up, and by the end of the shift, we're like, this doesn't work. We would do something else. So Yeah, right. So to-go cocktails are way not legal. No one ever dreamt of even trying to make them legal from our end. But then obviously it just everything happened so fast in New York.
Right.
It was a matter of days from, I remember I heard about the first restaurant closing on a Friday, and it was like crazy that it was even happening, that someone had voluntarily done it. And by Sunday, everybody was mandated to shut down. So the nice thing for us is that because of mainly out of the necessity of the complexity of Clover Club's program and the size of the menu, we've done a lot of batching and pre-batching just to execute the menu beforehand. So the idea of batching drinks was not foreign to us. And, we know what keeps well and what doesn't keep as well. And we know about, I guess one of the big things with to-go cocktails is it's not just putting the ingredients together, but it's also, perhaps this is obvious, but you're not preparing the drink. You're not shaking or stirring it. So you need to give somebody a finished cocktail. So that means adding water to it to dilute, which is basically putting in the melted ice that the shaking or stirring would otherwise do, which is about 20% or so water to the recipe. But that's something that we've been doing already for stirred cocktails that don't have any fresh ingredients like lemon juice or anything. So like a martini, for example. We have those like in our fridge at Clover Club, and to order, we'll just pour them over ice just to get the drinks out quickly because we're fairly high volume. So that was it was more just getting the idea of, okay, we're doing to-go cocktails. Other places were doing it. We waited a few weeks. And then in early April, I think, we started doing contactless to go, where people could order online and then they could pick up their order in a dedicated window twice a week. And we would have everything in bags. We'd have them on the table. People would just take them and go. It was already prepaid, so there was no touching. The menu was not that difficult to put together because we know what we can batch. We could put juice in the day of. It was just about, really just getting that system up and running. And then I'm sure we'll talk about this too, but it wasn't just us figuring it out. It was also the customers figuring out how this all works, and what they want to do. They're like, what do to-go cocktails? How do we enjoy to-go cocktails? So that was part of it too.
Well, batching is, that's been part of the bar business for quite a while. I love the fact that you guys integrated that kind of component. I am kind of curious, though, when you look at batching a product for the element of safety standards, especially now that you're putting in a to-go container and it's moving out, were there any restrictions there from the state of New York in terms of how to package products, or did they kind of just let you guys run?
I'm trying to, it was definitely, I don't remember. I think that it was like they talked about having food. You needed to have a little bit of food with every purchase, but it was vague, and there were sort of creative ways that people would get around that, like adding an orange or whatever into the bag or something, which people were supposed to use as a twist anyway. Other than that, I don't really remember in terms of packaging. I know that there were like these little 8-ounce plastic bottles that we got, and we went to reorder them, and they were all sold out because there are all these weird products that all of a sudden are just sold out everywhere. Umbrellas is another one because everybody has, outdoor seating everywhere. So, one really interesting thing, anecdotally, but I think this is pretty true across the board, is that when we started offering drinks, to go at the door this was more like May and June when we started doing takeout more and that sort of thing. It was not just contactless. People were taking them and just drinking them on the street. And that was not a regulation that was lifted. And we weren't doing that initially, but the other place down the street was doing it, and people were going there and not to us. And so we started offering, cups with a straw, and that's an area where it was kind of gray in how it was enforced. They clearly were letting us, kind of do our thing there for a little bit, which was nice.
Yeah, the roadie came back.
We called them walktails.
Wagtails.
Yeah.
Bastien, you guys went a little bit further in terms of really getting into almost the manufacturing of your takeout cocktail program. Talk to me a little about what you guys had to go through to get that going.
But the thing is, I think we started like quite like as everyone does, is like you look whatever is available around, and we started with small as well, like plastic bottles and so on. So we basically end up like doing like those kind of like super cute like cat food kind of like cans.
I like that.
And we bought like a can machine and canned like all those ones, and those are like super cool because first of all it's very unique. It's not something you would like be drinking a cocktail from. So that was a very big like novelty for people, you know, something very different and unique. When we started, we're pretty much one of the first one in China to do a takeaway cocktail due to the virus like situation. But then very quickly, every single bar in Shanghai, in Guangzhou, in Beijing, and so on started to do the same. So we needed something different. So we started with those cans.
Yeah.
The thing is like they're very good for recycling because it's aluminum. So it's not, you know, you don't waste too much. But also they're very easy to carry. They're very like steady. They won't like break down that easily. So it was something that actually made a lot of noise. A lot of people like online went viral of like sharing how you open it and then you pour kind of like a funky version of martinis or milk punch and so on.
Right.
And then it was something like we had different ones, more like classic like baby baby beer cans. Those ones are like more like for long drink, for highball. We learn on the way, you know, it's like everyone, you do something and suddenly you get surprised. Those actually cannot use anything like sparkling. You cannot use any like, you cannot make a gin tonic in this can. It will basically like pop. It's not going to work. Where those ones are made for pressure. That's why like the shape, everything is made to have like a sparkling drink inside.
Yeah.
So
how many of those can you manufacture in say an 8-hour shift? Are you doing it during the shift cycle itself? Is that when you're building the product, or do you have a whole separate team working off shift to actually produce the retail product?
No, so it was just like our team during the time the period were closed. We had like the whole day. The team could come from morning to afternoon, and they would do like the packaging. It's very quick to fill. The filling is very simple. We have like we bought a small bottling machine. You fill them 2 at a time, and it's very fast. It's pretty much when you do takeaway cocktail, the faster you make it, the less likely you will have like bacteria who go inside. Yeah. So we had that small sort of bottling machine. You press a button, you fill up to the exact measurement you set. That take around maybe like 3 to 4 seconds to fill up. And then after that, we manually like take it, put it on like a sealing machine. I could send you some video you can like share with everyone.
Yeah, definitely,
just to show how that machine works. But it's basically you turn a button, and super quick, you like spin and seal that top part to the can, to the bottom part. So the whole process per can is around like 5-6 seconds. So you can do a lot within an hour.
Yeah. So customers really like that in terms of the packaging side of it. Let's kind of move over to New York for a second, because I'm kind of curious, when you look at, once you've developed a program like this, and it's kind of moving in the right direction, at least with customers, they start to like what's happening. It's, becomes kind of a thing for you and the Clover Club. Was this something that you guys, how did you differentiate? Because New York is such a very competitive, nightlife scene. What was the thing that made you guys stand out for this?
I mean, I don't really feel like we ever got to a point where we were like, what are we going to do to get a leg up on the competition so much. It was really about like getting out and trying to make a system work that we felt good and safe about, to be honest, because New York was hit so hard and it was so scary, so fast, and
for sure
everyone was shell shocked. So I think that, I know that we wanted to get the word out to people in the neighborhood. All of a sudden it kind of, marketing a bar that has awareness beyond just, locally, which Clover Club is lucky to have. All of a sudden, it became very, very local. And we just wanted to make sure we could connect with the people in our neighborhood that knew us and were used to coming to us frequently. And so it was, simple things about just going on Instagram. It was about putting just letting people that we were here, that we were there and we were open and we were doing our thing. But ultimately, it was really just about giving everybody back. And I guess I feel lucky that once we started doing tables outside and all that, things have been pretty as steady as they could be. So we haven't felt squeezed so much of how are we gonna, grab people's attention. People have been around, and we've been very lucky. And like I said, I think I felt, because our system had integrated a lot of these practices already, I felt very confident that we were able to put out a really good product. I mean, we moved the bar. Our bar is kind of far back. We put just a folding table up on risers with a tablecloth on it by the door, and that's been the bar for the last, I don't know, 2.5, 3 months. So it's ridiculous. So that's why we're pre-batching. Everything's still pre-diluted, but we're able to execute it at the same level, I think, which I think is really what people come to us for, is delicious things, and we've been able to keep providing that, I think. Slightly off topic, but Bastien, you have your canned cocktails that you're making at the bar. Are you able to sell those outside of your bar, or have you tried? Is that legal? Like if you're to sell them at a liquor store?
Basically, we cannot sell them, for example, in a hotel or in a liquor store, because in China you must have a factory who produce for you.
Right.
But we're able to sell them to customers and maybe friends in different cities in their bars. But it's more a bit keep it sort of under the radar. But we've been basically shipping our cocktail through the whole country. Beijing is 5 hours flight from here. But there is customers who order our drinks, and then we ship them, and 3 days later arrive in Beijing.
And that's a little bit sort of under the radar, or is that totally fine?
No, this is totally fine, because it's kind of, you have to see it as a salad, that you're basically shipping a salad to Miami.
Right.
It's kind of like that, where this is completely fine. What wouldn't be fine is when we send 500 to a hotel in Shanghai, and the hotel resell to the customers.
Oh, okay. All right.
Very different than the United States.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, the regulations here are quite. So, Tom, when you look at now that you've kind of positioned at least a product that can go like this, is this something in New York that you see sticking around for quite some time, or maybe even transforming the bar scene there?
Do you mean to-go cocktails or canned cocktails?
Yeah, to-go. Yeah,
to-go cocktails. Well, I mean, I think it's going to be really interesting to see if this continues. I mean, we're really at this point. We're about to start indoor dining in a week and a half or so. And so that's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. Hopefully people don't continue to get sick. So that's a big question mark. People's comfort level, obviously what's going to happen in the winter will determine a lot about the state of the industry. And then I think in turn, we'll sort of see how people's habits evolve with to-go cocktails. I mean, I think this part of reintegration of coming back inside will determine a lot about that. I hope that they continue to-go cocktails, for delivery and things like that. It makes total sense. I don't think there's been a huge problem with them being available. I think it's just as you say, the laws are very strict here, and all of them are from post-prohibition, when every state sort of wrote a bunch of laws, and we're still living with them. There's just no political will to change them. And so hopefully that they'll stay. I think that there's a lot of value, and I think that it could transform the bar scene. It would and provide a much needed added revenue for bars. Owning a bar or restaurant in New York City was a really tough business before the pandemic,
before COVID,
and getting more and more difficult by the month as rents rise and pricing is still kind of hard to rise to, and margins get squeezed. It's really challenging. So I think to-go cocktails, it makes sense. Why not?
Yeah.
I think.
Well, if you look at what's happening, at least here in the U.S. and in some places in Europe, takeout business has exploded, whether you look at third-party delivery or people coming in to pick up their product to go. But the food takeout business is actually dominating where the growth factors are going. So you have a lot of this mid-range, sector in the restaurant industry that's really dominating that, and those in the fine dining and casual dining sectors that have figured out a model to make to go really work for them. It's actually, supplementing enough of their business to kind of keep them afloat. Obviously, the unit economics for, rent and things of that nature, that's still something to be worked out over time, but it will be interesting to see if that continues to hold. And for the states who've said, hey, we're going to let, takeout cocktails exist, Texas is a good example. This is something that I think they're going to let stick around, and it's going to become part of state law there. So hopefully that will happen, nationwide. I want to get into talking about how you guys are choosing what products to put in these. And I know there's two very different markets. We'll start with you, Bastien. What were you going straight to your top sellers on your menu, or did you have to kind of create something that's very unique and very specific for takeout in packaged or to go product?
Mm-hmm. So there is like thing to take in considerations. Not all cocktails can easily be done in like a takeaway.
Right.
There's a lot of ways to kind of like go around and still make it works. All the cocktail we use, we filter them with like very, very fine, kind of like giant coffee filters to remove impurities, because that would create a lot of like unpleasant flavors as the time goes. We pasteurize them in basically like hot bath, like 65 degrees Celsius bath over a period of time, just to keep them safe. But then let me quickly go on this one. This edition, basically, that was our first cans that we launched. This one, we wanted to do something very sort of, something that bring back memories to people. So we basically launched a new menu during the virus in early April. And this one was basically our like top 4 years, kind of like most iconic favorite cocktails. So it was like 14 different cocktails sold on takeaway. And that was like all our best sellers from the past 4 years of the bar. So this one was interesting because a lot of guests ordered basically the 12 at one go.
Okay.
They would say, I want all of them, keep them in the fridge, and then over the next week or so, slowly go one by one to drink them at home. So that was the first one. Then after that, we launched like a second edition of Can. This one was a menu that we worked with a lot of different brands. That time, our bar just reopened. And we wanted to do something more meaningful, that because we're like on the lucky side of the world where business was coming back to normal, we called this Bar Hopeless, this menu.
Okay.
As our kind of like a wing from our bar, Hopeless Sesame.
I liked it.
And this menu was very special because we donate 5 RMB, which is around like 80 cents of USD, from each cocktail we sell, either as a takeaway can or at the bar. And then we reach out to a lot of different brands and we ask them to also chip in the same amount of money for each cocktail sold. So for this one was more brand that was willing to support our cause, which was basically raising money for like some local charities and some like bar associations. Yeah. So for here, we just went through different brands that we had good relationship with, and then was like, let's partner together.
I like it. Now, Tom, you seem to have jumped the shark in this a little bit as well. You've actually launched a company around this. Tell me a little bit about that story, how you guys decided to go in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I don't know if you want to call it serendipitous or what. I mean, I was working on, I have my own cans. Social Hour Cocktails is our new canned cocktail company. And I've been working on this. The first idea was like 7 years ago, and the last 3 years have been working on it pretty intensely, because I really believed that canned cocktails, really good canned cocktails, could exist and should exist, and that there was a market for them in the United States. And then, it was pretty much just me and, Julie and some of my other partners. We were working on it together, but I was really really the only one working on it every day. So it took a while. And as you know, over the last 2.5 years, as I put all the pieces together and formulated and the recipes, got the manufacturer, the cans, the certifications, and all that stuff, RTDs have exploded in the United States from, spiked seltzer, malt-based spiked seltzers like White Claw,
Right.
and was last summer when it really exploded. And then I could see it still coming, and I was like, oh my gosh, like here we go. And then the pandemic hit, and at first it was very, obviously just sort of the whole thing was terrifying, but it was like, I'm not going to start a business now. I mean, I was, weeks away from really starting to get into production.
Interesting.
But then over the few months, as we all know, off-premise, alcohol sales have exploded because all the bars and restaurants shut down. And part of that is people started to check out all these canned cocktails that were spirit-based canned cocktails that were coming out. And so, so we launched this past August finally. It's interesting because a lot of people, it's like the story is now tied to us launching this, is tied to the sort of the pandemic, which it's very much related, but it's not a pandemic pivot. I mean, we've been working on it for years. We're just certainly focusing on it a lot. We have plans to launch several other flavors and, roll into 2021 with a head of steam. The market is, and again, not only are people more interested, it's like airlines and all these places that could serve cocktails. They're not just interested in the convenience, but also the touching less things. It's just, there's a safety perception there, I think, that is
for sure
appealing to people.
Yeah, and I think we're going to continue to see a lot of hacks like that start to make their way into business today, especially in food and beverage, which is going to be kind of the future of really redefining how you serve guests, because there's going to just be so many new ways to do it. For both of you, I want to wrap up the session here so we can keep on time, but I want to kind of find out, when you look at getting to go programs, ready to drink programs going, for the bartenders and bar operators that are out there that maybe could pull this off, what would be maybe 1 or 2 tips that you would say, hey, these are watch out points, or these are some areas that you should really think about as you're getting going? Tom, let's start with you and kind of your tips to the industry there to kind of take off with to go.
And you mean specific for to-go cocktails, right? Yeah, I think
for you,
that, think about what is going to keep, and, definitely think about fresh ingredients, so you don't want to put anything in there that's not going to stay good the next day or in 2 days or so. Also, I think about dilution. Be honest about, what you can execute reliably. It doesn't have to be super complicated. I think that good classic drinks are a great place to start. And then you can build from there on maybe adding 1 or 2 sort of accents to make things more interesting. But start simple and make sure everything's delicious. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. How about you, Bastien? I mean, you've had to go out and buy a canning machine. You've kind of repositioned everything. You had to run into a lot of different challenges there.
No, I think just what everything was saying now is very on point. And then one thing is like what I saw that worked very well for us is you have to take it as like a whole business. It's not just doing like some cans and then a couple of posts on Instagram is not going to be good enough. It's something that you have to spend a lot of time doing, like photo shootings to promote it and so on.
Yeah.
And it's a very good thing to go outside of a really like what bartenders are used to do. It's not anymore about like making drink in front of a bar counter for 20 seats or 50 seats, but it's more like reaching out companies, be like, hey, do you want to do a cocktail with your logo on it? And then we can help you to do that. And then suddenly you end up making 400 cocktails for a big firms,
right?
And they will give that as gift to their client or to their, friends and whatever. So I think it's like, if you take it very seriously, it can become a very profitable business, but it's something that needs a lot of work, a lot of marketing behind, a lot of like effort to make it work.
All right. Well, Bastien Ciocca, co-founder, co-owner over at Hope and Sesame, and of course, Mr. Tom Macy, partner over at the Clover Club. Great to see you guys and great to have you on. Good luck at both of your operations. I think you guys are onto something there. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes forward.
Thank you so much. Great to talk to you guys.
All right. All right, we're going to sign off here for our next session here on Bar Virtual. Make sure and stay tuned right here. And of course, you can always jump into the chat as kind of outlined earlier, but that's a great way to kind of converse with the speakers and the guests today. And also, if you have some information or you'd love to reach out to us, you can always just shoot us an email over at producer@foodabletv.com. We'll catch you on the next episode right here on Bar Virtual.